Hi everyone, a very good afternoon. You're watching the newsroom on ET Now. I'm Mubina Kapasi. Markets at this juncture are sitting on some gains on the last day of the week, but we've slipped quite a bit from the high point of the day. We are now at 11,550. For the Nifty, and the SENSEX is just bang at that 39,000 mark. In fact, the SENSEX is threatening to go once again into the red, but the Nifty still is managing to hold on with a gain of around 0.33%. Let's tell you what are the big movers and shakers then today in trade, starting off with Dr. Reddy's. That definitely has seen quite a bit of momentum, not just in today's trading session, but in yesterday's trading session as well. Yesterday's trigger was, of course, that big development with the Russian sovereign fund, and then today we had more news coming in with respect to Dr. Reddy's. They've announced a settlement of the US Revlimid capsules patent litigation with Celgene, which is a Bristol Myers Squibb company, and this is something perhaps that's leading another rally for Dr. Reddy's. In fact, it's seeing the biggest gain since the 7th of April, and the volumes as well are 16x the 20-day average. Moving on from the broader market too, we are seeing stock like a Natco Pharma that's surging, and how this one in fact is seeing the most intraday gains since 4th October 2017. That's almost 3 years. Now, the reason behind this momentum is that Dr. Reddy is licensed to sell volume limited amounts of generic lenalidomide in the US beginning on a confidential date that's previously granted to Natco Pharma. So this as well is something related to Dr. Reddy's that would essentially bode well for Natco too, because it's the same, the timeline is the same as Natco Pharma's launch. Moving on, Lupin too is in focus. Cipla and Lupin both actually are in focus. Both of them are rallying, and how Lupin has gained significantly. In fact, it surpassed the 1100 rupee mark as well. Perigol has recalled albuterol, and that in turn should benefit both Cipla and Lupin, and both of them are rallying today in trade. Okay, well, moving away from pharma, but really that's the cynosure of all eyes. But SL Propack 2 is buzzing. The stock price had tanked significantly earlier in the day, and it still is in fact losing almost 5 to 6%. This after 23.3% of the equity traded in 5 bunches in the earlier part of the trading session. Remember, Blackstone, or at least reports suggested that Blackstone is the one that was planning to sell a 23% stake in SL Propack for $250 million. We'll wait for this evening for the bulk deal data to be released, and we'll know who essentially have been the buyers and sellers in SL Propack. And finally, a brokerage reaction on a Motherson Sumi. We have, a major brokerage firm essentially talking about maintaining an overweight stance on Motherson Sumi. Let's just tell you which brokerage firm that is, and it is Morgan Stanley. Target price kept for this one is 121 rupees. The upward revision in global production outlook augurs well for the company's earnings. Global businesses are running at low utilization rates, and the PV production will be a driver for Motherson Sumi's earnings. So that as well is a stock in focus, gaining roughly about 2%. But like I mentioned, pharma really is the cynosure of all eyes. So earlier in the day, we spoke to market veteran Jinesh Gopani, who hailed the stock, or rather the sector, as one of the best performing ones from an EPS point of view. Listen in.
After this COVID episode and the way US FDA has started giving approvals for some of the products which are short in supply, I think near term, the issues around US FDA not allowing plants to run has gone away. And also there has been a lot of approvals which were pending for last, let's say, 6 to 12 months has suddenly got approvals. And again, I would say pharma is a very stock specific story. Different companies have different ANDAs, different product pipelines, different chemistries. And hence it should be looked from that point of view. But nevertheless, it has been a good sector, both as you rightly said, from the EPS upgrade point of view, and also the re-rating, because it was sort of, I would say, underweight pre-COVID. When others were overweight on the financials and the other sector.
Well, that's of course pharma for you, but the other pack that's really buzzing is IT. Poonam Sani joins in with Morgan Stanley's latest note on the IT sector.
Well, bullish reports continue to pour in for the entire IT space. In fact, Morgan Stanley has stated that faster demand recovery has led them to revise their earnings estimates and revenue estimates upwards, and also revise the target prices upwards for the IT pack. In fact, they state that the HCL Tech mid-quarter update revising the revenue and the EBIT margin guidance is likely to lead to a positive surprise on the revenue growth for most of the IT companies, and they believe that the incremental demand environment is certainly improving, and that could support the overall growth recovery and could also lead to lifting of the multiples for the large IT companies, along with the potential for them to re-rate. In fact, Morgan Stanley states that they are overweight on Infosys, HCL Technologies and Tech Mahindra, and between these three companies itself, they do prefer, their preference is Tech Mahindra over HCL Tech and over Infosys as well. They're stating that the spending led by digital transformation is likely to support growth, and that should also lead to a re-rating going ahead, and the P multiples for some of the IT companies are likely to stay higher than the 5-year average. CLSA also in the report has stated that Infosys and HCL Tech remain their top bottom-up sector picks, and they do see incremental upside coming in for the IT sector. However, they expect only stock specific moves, so watch out for this entire IT space upgrades coming in.
All right, thanks Poonam for that. IT and pharma really have been the stars of 2020. For now, we will take a very short break right here on the show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom on ET Now. With factories being shut and demand slumping, many workers in the auto sector have lost their jobs. Even though companies have opened up, unfortunately, many employees cannot be accommodated due to the social distancing norms. What has been the impact of the same on the workforce working in Jharkhand, which is of course the auto manufacturing hubs of India? Utkarsh Chaturvedi went there to speak to some of the employees.
One very important component of the whole structure of automotive industry is the labor, is the employee, and that has been impacted the most in this lockdown. Right now I'm in Pune, and Pune and Jharkhand serve as a belt to many small auto component manufacturers as well as OEMs, and I'm right now with people from different organizations, different unions, who are raising their concerns about either salary cuts, pay cuts, or losing jobs. Let me try and speak to them and get a sense of how painful has the COVID-19 pandemic to be them. Sir, आप कौन सी कंपनी में काम करते हैं? क्या हुआ लॉकडाउन के दौरान, हमको बताने की कोशिश करेंगे?
मैं WMI कोने क्रेंस एम्प्लॉयज़ यूनियन का जनरल सेक्रेटरी आशीष सातारे बोल रहा हूँ। मैं कोने क्रेंस डेमैक प्राइवेट लिमिटेड में काम करता हूँ। कंपनी ने 30 जून को हमें लेटर दिया और कहा कि आपका 333 रुपीज़ कटिंग हो जाएंगे। उसका पीरियड रहेगा 23 मार्च टू 31 मई। ये 70 डेज़ का हम लोग पेमेंट कट कर देंगे। 6 तारीख से ऑलरेडी सब एम्प्लॉयज़ 50% एम्प्लॉयज़ काम पे आ रहे थे, तो भी कंपनी ने 70 डेज़ यानी 23 मार्च से 31 मई तक का पेमेंट कट कर दिया है।
सर, आप कौन सी कंपनी से हैं?
मैं कॉन्सेंट्रिक पंप्स पुणे प्राइवेट लिमिटेड से हूँ। मेरा नाम विजय कुलकर्णी है। मैं कॉन्सेंट्रिक एम्प्लॉय यूनियन का जनरल सेक्रेटरी हूँ। हमारे इधर अप्रैल और मई का पेमेंट नहीं दिया है, 50% दिया है, और उसके बाद में उन्होंने क्या किया कि क्या बोलते हैं उसका, PRS स्कीम लागू कर दिया। PRS स्कीम लागू कर देने से उनके पास एम्प्लॉई गए नहीं। इसकी वजह से उन्होंने 35 एम्प्लॉइज़ को रिट्रीचमेंट के नाम से लेटर दे दिया, और उसके अगेंस्ट हमने लेबर ऑफिस में अभी केस दाखिल किया है।
अभी लेबर ऑफिस में जो कंप्लेन हुई थी, उसके बाद कंपनी का कुछ कहना है?
कंपनी बोलती है हमारे पास काम करने के लिए काम देने के लिए हमारे पास काम नहीं है।
तो आप सर भारत फोर्ज से हैं, क्या कहानी है, क्या बात हुई है? काफ़ी बड़ी कंपनी है, काफ़ी जगह प्लांट्स हैं कंपनी के।
मैं भारत फोर्ज लिमिटेड चाकन का एम्प्लॉय हूँ। भारत फोर्ज एम्प्लॉय यूनियन चाकन का जनरल सेक्रेटरी। लॉकडाउन के वजह से ऐसा बोल रहे हो, लॉकडाउन के कोविड-19 की वजह से और नेचुरल कैलेमिटी की वजह से प्रोडक्शन 60% कम हुआ है, इसलिए उन्होंने 18 अगस्त से 170 लोगों को 167 लोगों को इलीगल ले ऑफ दिया है और उसको हमने इंडस्ट्रियल कोर्ट में उसको चैलेंज किया है।
Even though the companies are trying to increase production, they are looking at increasing capacity utilization, getting more labor. But when you come to Pune, when you speak to these unions, you get enough instances to realize that the lockdown has really impacted jobs and pay cuts within the workers across the Pune and Chakan belt.
All right. Well, that, of course, was a ground report from one of the biggest auto hubs in India, Chakan, which is just a few kilometers away from Pune. E-commerce companies are likely to see, meantime, a 50% jump in gross sales to reach $4 billion this Diwali on the back of massive online adoption post-COVID-19. Market research firm Reddy, which closely works with e-commerce companies, expects the entire festive month to clock gross sales of $7 billion in 2020, which is a jump of 75% compared to a year ago. Reddy's associate partner Ujjwal Chaudhary spoke to Chandra Srikant on the geo effect and the categories that are likely to do well this festive season. Listen in.
If you look at the festive sales number we are projecting in the first sales this year, we are projecting around 27 to 30,000 crores in the first sale, which is the prime flagship sale of the festive season. If you look at the last year's numbers, this was around 19,000 crores. So we are projecting around 50% growth. The largest part of this growth is going to come from the new shoppers that are going to be shopping in the festive season for the first time this year around. And so last year we saw around 28 million or 2.8 crore customers participating in the first festive sale. This year we are projecting around 45 to 50 million or 4.5 to 5 CR of shoppers. So which is almost a 70% growth, right? So the basic takeaway here is that we are expecting a lot of new tier 2 plus shoppers who are going to come online for the first time during this festive season and do their spends online, right? So that is, I think, the biggest takeaway for us for this festive season.
Right. Ujjwal, the other interesting point I saw, you mentioned the accelerated shift to digital that COVID has done, how the mode of shopping has changed. People are using WhatsApp, people are doing shopping through videos. I just wanted to know how much of these are actually first-time shoppers, or is there an overlap because some of these people have kind of increased their spends on digital because organized retail is yet to make a comeback? So, if I had spent say 50 rupees physical and 50 rupees online before, I'm now going to be spending perhaps 80 or 90 rupees of that online. So, is this a mix of these trends?
Sure. I think, fundamentally, if you look at the behavior that is changing post-COVID, right, it has crunched a multi-year journey in terms of digital penetration to a few months. So if we look at last year, online only contributed to 3% of the overall spend. If we look at this year, it is going to be 5%, right, which is a mammoth change. If we look at non-grocery retail, where if we take out the grocery and FMCG categories, then last year was around 7.5% and this year is 16% online. Right now, the kind of shift we are seeing where people are preferring to shop online instead of doing it offline, that is the primary driver. And while we have seen some instances of growth spurt in the past as well, what we are seeing this time is a very sustained use of digital as a mainstream channel of shopping. And this is a trend which is definitely going to continue as people are getting more and more comfortable with the online channel, right? In terms of number of shoppers, right? So till last year, we were saying around 135 million shoppers in a year. This year, we are now saying 160 million shoppers in a year, right? So we have already added at least 25 million new shoppers to the overall online ecosystem. And a lot of these new shoppers actually come during the festive season for the first time, which is a trend that we have seen over years, right? So for in that sense, this is, this is going to be a festival of firsts in a lot of ways, where one, of course, the COVID impact that is there. Second, we are seeing, Jio coming into the online space for the first time. Third, we are seeing a very strong nationalist sentiment in terms of Atmanirbhar policy. So these are some of the things which are definitely going to have an impact on how we shop in this particular festive season. And these are some of the things that we have built into our projections as well.
Right. You spoke about the geo effect. How has that impacted the online trend so far? Is it primarily driven by grocery, other segments? What trends are you seeing as far as the geo effect on the Indian e-commerce ecosystem is concerned?
Right. See, if you look at the festive season in the past as well, it is a very strong indicator of things to come. And while there are a lot of things that we take for granted today, those were the things that were introduced during the festive season. So if you look at Jio, right, so far what we have seen is the things that they are doing in grocery. And they are becoming a very strong player when it comes to driving grocery in non-metro cities. So this festive season, we do expect to have a sneak peek into, what their fashion and electronics online strategy is going to be like. Of course, the grocery category does not drive, the volume, the value or the GMV during the festive season. So it will not have a very strong impact on the overall GMV.
All right. Well, that, of course, was a chat with Reddy on what the expectations are from this festive season, especially in e-commerce. Now, let's get to what's buzzing in the startup space from our special show, Startup Central.
WeChat users in the United States especially, they can breathe easy as of now. The US Justice Department is saying that users will not be subjected to any penalties if they use the Chinese app WeChat for personal or business purposes. WeChat, of course, was banned along with TikTok after President Trump's executive order that came out on the 5th of August. Now, WeChat was even accused of capturing user data and allowing the Chinese Communist Party to access personal lives of Americans. But the Justice Department has eased out those fears of users of this rather popular app. Clearly, some apps seem to be more equal than others. Now, venture capital investment firm Lightspeed Venture Partners has announced the launch of the Southeast Asia operations of the company. The firm has backed up plenty of Indian startups, and that includes the likes of Oyo and Bearjuice, and now they're going to invest in startups throughout the Southeast Asian region. Lightspeed has about $4 billion available now from the 3 global funds that it's closed in 2020 itself. Sony's PlayStation PS5, which costs around $500, is going to be launched on the 12th of November this year. PS5 consoles are going to be available in North America, in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, also South Korea from the 12th of November, and the rest of the world is going to be available from the 19th of November. Low pricing is expected to lead to an interesting war in the gaming universe, with the Microsoft console hitting the market just 2 days, mind you, just 2 days ahead of the Sony console. So now gamers are gearing up for this new game, as it were, between Sony and Microsoft. That battle is going to wage on. Now here's a question. Can you watch individual trees on a map? Well, if you're in California and if you use the California Forest Observatory tool, you certainly can. The tool uses artificial intelligence and satellite images that can map individual trees. Now, this technology is going to help firefighters fight that catastrophic mega fire that has rattled California entirely. Well, talk about science coming to the rescue.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll wrap it up on this episode of Markets at Noon. The newsroom, pardon me. Stay tuned for closing trades.